From the Weather NorCal Command Center, this is your Evening Update.
American Door Company has been family-owned and operated for over 29 years, supplying Northern California with quality garage doors, garage door openers, and installed with the best service you'd expect from a locally owned company. We serve all of Northern California from Willows all the way to the Oregon state line. Give us a call today.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Meteorologist Mike Krueger. Hey, daylight saving time. Just a kind of a friendly reminder. Sunday, November 2nd, daylight saving time ends. You'll fall back 1 hour. The good part is it'll get lighter earlier on in the day, but it will get darker earlier in the day. So it just depends on how you look at it. But again, just that friendly reminder. We're still several weeks out, but just wanted to kind of give you a quick reminder on that. All right, so it's dry and mild the rest of this week, believe it or not. We're talking about this atmospheric river, right? We're talking about all this rain heading our way, but it's still dry for the next couple of days. But I do expect it to be significantly cooler. The rain will rise for most of Northern California Friday night into Saturday morning, and then mainly dry and mild through a good portion of next week. It's beginning to see signs that maybe Monday, lingering possibly into Tuesday, a slight chance for showers. We'll get into that a little bit later. But first, here is your Krueger's Quickcast for your Wednesday, October 22nd. So for tonight, we're dropping down to the upper 40s to around 50 in the valley. And for the mountains, you're talking 30s and 40s and upper 40s for the coast. In fact, the coast and the valley, pretty similar with those overnight lows. Now, tomorrow morning, some fog on the coast, mainly clear skies in the valley, and we'll call it a few clouds here and there for Trinity County and out towards, say, Modoc County as well. But otherwise, just a pretty chilly start to the day. Now, the area of low pressure that was impacting us today, that's moving on out. The clouds, some of the showers, that's all moving out to the east. In the meantime, we've got another batch of clouds off to the west over the Gulf of Alaska. That'll be moving in. That is what's going to give us the rain by the time we get into Friday night and this weekend. But again, not until this weekend. Tomorrow, gorgeous. Upper 70s for most of us in the valley, mid to upper 70s. 60s and 70s for the mountains, and looks like in the upper 50s to low 60s for the coast. Now, the 7-day forecast, yes, dry today, dry tomorrow, and then there it is. Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, showers, and maybe a chance coming into Monday before we start to warm things back up again for Tuesday and Wednesday. Now, for the coast, of course, the chance for showers late in the day. I think Del Norte County, actually Friday afternoon, we could start to see some showers at that point. But then by Friday night, everyone else, the inland and Trinity County, seeing the rain, and then showers through the weekend and even into Monday of next week. And for Siskiyou, Modoc County, the eastern mountains, mainly dry through Friday. And then by Friday night to Saturday, you've got that rain coming in, and that chance continues as we go into your Monday, and then maybe an isolated shower or two as we go into Wednesday. So it just depends on where you are, but mainly dry through a good portion of next week. All right, that's a look at Krueger's Quickcast. Let's go into the deeper dive, shall we? The deeper dive forecast is something we can just really dive into what's going on. So we've been talking about this atmospheric river. You've been hearing about the atmospheric river left and right. But what exactly is an atmospheric river? Well, here it is. Here's the overall setup. You've got a narrow band of high moisture, or an atmospheric river, and it really is what is the moisture source. So it's not a storm per se, but it's a source of moisture for a storm. Okay, so it's that flow that's really hitting the mountains as well. So again, we kind of take a look at the surface, and you've got these strong winds, right, that kind of blow over the water, and that wind flow over the ocean pushes moisture towards the land. Okay, so you have that atmospheric river. The strong winds can create a narrow band of extremely high moisture called an atmospheric river. Again, we talk about these atmospheric rivers. Now, the strength of these just depends with each storm and each atmospheric river. So here's what happens. It blows up the mountains. Now, as it blows up the mountains, it creates upward lift. That upward lift squeezes out the moisture, and that's where you see the heavy rainfall. So a lot of times along the coast and the mountain ranges along the coast, you see a tremendous amount of rainfall. Then on the back side of those mountains, you tend to get what's called shadowing. That is, the air sinks, and then we start to see those showers begin to break up, and the valley tends to not see as much moisture on average, depending on how strong the atmospheric river is, but on average you see less rainfall in the valley as a result. And then on the mountains for us, we see another band of clouds, or excuse me, should I say mountains, just to the east of the valley, where you see more upward lift. And we'll kind of go into that a little bit more detail here in a second when we look at Futurecast. But I want to show you, of course, now that we kind of know what an atmospheric river is and how it's all set up, what you've got is this area of low pressure right here. here is that atmospheric river beginning to set up right now. Now that's still a few days out before it actually gets here, but I want to show you. There it is, right? So now we're seeing that narrow band of moisture that per that definition, right? The narrow band of moisture that's aimed right at Northern California. Now another thing I'd like to point out is that the strength of the atmospheric river is also going to determine how much rain we end up seeing. Sometimes we hear about atmospheric rivers that are pointed right at Northern California for days on end, and as a result, you see flooding. But this one, here it is, Friday night at 10 p.m. You see how it's at Northern California? Look at what happens as we go into Saturday morning, Saturday midday. It shifts to the south. So now we no longer are under the influence of an atmospheric river by the time we go into Saturday afternoon, Sunday, and even Monday. We're going to see storms come through, weak ones, with some moisture, but not atmospheric river associated. All right, so here it is. There's that storm system. There you can see that atmospheric river setting up. You've got the cold front along it. And by the way, that cold front and that storm is what's going to help to generate some strong winds Friday night and into Saturday as that pushes through. And there's another cold front. As you can see, as we go into Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, this is going to move through Saturday afternoon, giving us more showers, possible thunderstorms too, as a matter of fact. And then this one, timing looks like it's going to be sometime Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, and then another one back here that could possibly bring us a slight chance on Monday. But this one looks like it's going to try to push a little bit more to the north as high pressure begins to start to build in by early next week, and our chances for rain will start to diminish through next week. So let's take a look at Futurecast. Let's walk you through all the timing of this. So the area of low pressure that brought many of us to clouds and even some showers to the east, that's moving on out. So for your Thursday, you got mainly sunny skies. All over the coast, you are seeing some of the low clouds and that fog throughout the day tomorrow. But here we are on Friday. There it is. Noon on Friday, there is that cold front. Now it's shifting more to the east. All right, so now, by the time you get into Friday about 5 p.m., you're seeing the heavier rainfall heaviest at Del Norte County. Maybe some light showers developing south of that in Humboldt, northern Trinity, and western Siskiyou, but really the bulk of that heavier rainfall is right over Del Norte County and, of course, north of that. Now you see we're talking about that atmospheric river shifting to the south. That's where it was on Friday evening. Here's where it is Saturday morning. There's that atmospheric river. Now you'll notice it's beginning to break apart, not very strong. So it doesn't look like we're going to see a ton of rainfall out of this outside of what we see here for the North Coast. Now remember, at this point, we are no longer under the influence of an atmospheric river. This is now just weak storm systems pushing through that are going to bring us showers and possible thunderstorms for the day on Saturday. Sunday, again, not an atmospheric river, but an actual storm system that's pushing through that is tapping into some moisture, and it's going to bring us some rainfall. And some of it could be heavy at times for Sunday morning and even into Sunday afternoon. Here we are, Sunday around midday. We're seeing still those showers pushing eastward, but notice it was strongest in the morning on Sunday, and then it started to kind of break apart as we go into Sunday afternoon. Still some details to iron out with this, and the rainfall totals are still all over the place, even though we're only a few days out. Now, this is our in-house forecast model, and it might be overdoing it for Redding, but I would say on average for the valley through Monday night, I'd say about 1/2 of an inch, give or take. I know that's kind of vague, but that's where we're at right now. But where we typically see the most amount of rainfall is to the north and west, and that's where we have that bullseye of heavier rainfall to the north and west, and that's why places like Del Norte County, Crescent City, for example, will see that heaviest amount of rainfall, and then, a decent amount of rainfall also into southern Humboldt County as well. But another thing I want to point out, heaviest, not as heavy, but still some pretty decent rainfall with these darker shades of green, but the blue is where you have lighter green. And there's a reason for that. Remember we were talking about when that flow is heading up the mountains and it squeezes out the moisture? So the coast sees some heavy rainfall. The coastal range, the Trinity Alps, the Marble Mountains also sees as the winds blow up those mountain ranges, it squeezes out a lot of rainfall, and that's why you see a lot of that rain in the mountains. Now, as we go on the back side, right, so we still have some decent rain even in in Siskiyou County because you're in the mountains. But the valley here, now we're seeing the winds do this. They're going up, now they're coming down, so we see a bit of shadowing, less rainfall in the valley as a result. But then those winds go back up the mountains east of the valley, so it squeezes out a lot of that moisture there and even up to the north into Modoc County. So again, I don't want you to look at these numbers and say, this is exactly the amount of rainfall we're going to see, but you can get a basic idea. Heaviest to the north and west, then some decent rainfall for some of the higher elevations, just not as much for the valley. So you're hearing the term atmospheric river. Some of you are going to say, yeah, this is truly an atmospheric river. Then others of you are going to say, that's not an atmospheric river. This is nothing. Well, I mean, for the most part, most likely it is not going to be a whole lot of rainfall for some of you because that atmospheric river is just not going to be here for very long. Remember, I was saying it's mainly a Friday night, Saturday event with the influence of an atmospheric river. But then by Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening, we're no longer under that influence, right? Now, with that cold front coming through on Friday, we're also going to see those winds pick up. There you can see for the coast for Friday evening, and then we go into Friday night, Saturday morning, the winds starting to pick up even for the Sacramento Valley. So if you got those Halloween decorations out, those inflatables, just make sure that they're well anchored down because it will get a little gusty as we go into your Saturday. Hey, by the way, this is something I talked about this morning too. They keep extending this beach hazard statement as these storm systems come through. Certainly that's going to be the case here. But this is for tomorrow, starting at 2 p.m. and lasting through Friday at 5 p.m. So just be aware of that for Thursday afternoon through the day on Friday. All right, let's take a look at the temperatures out there. They're really plummeting by the weekend. Upper 50s, low 60s for Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then low 70s on average here as we go into Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday. All right, here is your neighborhood forecast, sponsored in part by Dignity Health. We do have those temperatures in the low to mid 70s for your Thursday. So we've got really 2 more days of this dry weather for pretty much everyone before that rain begins to kick in. Now, the coast, I'd say by late afternoon, early evening, we are starting to see those showers and then more showers for Saturday and Sunday. And that could linger into Monday as well, by the way. And there you can see Gasquet for your Thursday, 72, 75 degrees for Orleans. Your Dignity Health, Siskiyou County neighborhood forecast, upper 60s to low 70s for those daytime highs. And we got those dry conditions Thursday, Friday night into Saturday. You've got the showers. And by the way, snow levels on average around 5,000 feet, maybe a little bit lower as we go into your Sunday as that colder air moves in. 68 degrees for Canby, 67 degrees in Aden and Fort Bidwell, about 67 for your Thursday. And for the Eastern Mountains, 60s and 70s there, dry through Friday. And as we go into Saturday, Sunday, even into Monday, we've got those showers in the forecast. And your Dignity Health Valley neighborhood forecast to the south, temperatures in the mid-70s. Looks like we're going to keep that chance for showers in there. So Friday, it's dry. Saturday, Sunday, you've got showers, as well as Monday. That could linger into Monday, and then drying out for Tuesday, Wednesday of next week. Your 7-day forecast for Chico. Look how much cooler it is, too. Down to 61 on Sunday, and then back in the low 70s by Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. Let's take you up to the north. Yeah, we're flirting with that 80-degree mark, so it's going to warm up again. 78 degrees out in Redding, 75 for Lakehead and Whiskeytown. And looking at that 7-day forecast for Redding, there's, of course, the showers, low 60s by Saturday, upper 50s on Sunday, and then we're back into the low 70s by Tuesday, Wednesday. All right, that is your evening forecast. I'll be back again tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. and live on Coffee with Krueger at 6:30. Have a great night.